We are coming on the air with breaking news here at Channel 2 Action News. I'm Linda Stouffer along with George Estevez, and we are confirming now that 4 people have been shot in downtown Atlanta. We're bringing you this live picture from News Chopper 2. This happened at the Peachtree Center food court, according to Atlanta's mayor and also Atlanta police, who say this is an open, active scene, and you are looking live right now.
We're bringing you these live pictures and interrupting programming because 4 people have been shot. One, at this point, is believed to be the suspect. We have our reporters Andre Washington and Michael Dowdna headed there on the ground. To give you an idea, as News Chopper 2 kind of goes in circles around these big, tall buildings in the middle of downtown Atlanta, 225 Peachtree Street. It's near the Hard Rock restaurant. There's a MARTA station down there. And Peachtree Center, Linda, 50 restaurants, very busy area down there in that food court.
And apparently it did actually happen at the food court. There is a big police response, as you can only imagine. And again, you're looking live as we sort of zoom in between some of the buildings there. That is in downtown Atlanta. A couple of the major impacts in this area. Georgia State University is telling people to avoid the area right now at this time. Again, Georgia State University telling their community to avoid the area. However, MARTA is saying they're not affected, and there's a MARTA station right there by the Peachtree Center building. Again, MARTA says their operation's not affected at this point, but they have put all their teams in communication with Atlanta police patrolling the station. Their tactical field officers are at work right now. And just to recap, a shooting, 4 people shot at the Peachtree Center area in downtown Atlanta.
And such a busy area, 1.5 million square feet of office space down there. There's all sorts of skywalks, and you can see through the buildings as News Chopper 2 brings you these live images. You can see the activity down there on the ground, about 50 different restaurants in that central area. And just to give you an idea, just blocks away from America's Mart, from the hotel district, the Westin is down there, the Sundial restaurant. There's, Linda, the clearest shot that we have of down there on the ground. You can see some ambulances, obviously police cars. So of the 4 people shot, one of the people is believed to be the suspect. That is the information coming into the Channel 2 Action News newsroom. They're all alert. So we also know that they're conscious and they're breathing. So again, that shooting resulted just a few minutes ago, 4 people getting shot, but all conscious and breathing, and one of them believed to be, at this point, the suspect. But imagine, Linda, it's what, 3 o'clock, happened 20, 30 minutes ago. In the middle of the day, you could only imagine the commotion and the panic that may have set in there on the ground. As we see right there, there's an ambulance that just snuck behind that building.
Understandably, because we know 4 people have been shot and injured. No telling at this point how many shots were fired. And because this area is so congested right there in downtown Atlanta, it's why it's difficult to show you a clear, static picture of what's happening. So many hotels and office buildings, law firms, restaurants right in that area. So many people, thousands of people work in that area in downtown Atlanta as well. I can tell you what we're doing right now. We are checking with Atlanta police. We are checking with the mayor's office to bring you the very latest about this response. And our assignment desk people are making all the calls right now, sending out the emails. We also have Channel 2 Action News photographers and reporters headed there right now. We're going to check in with our reporters on the ground as soon as we can to give you a sense of how they're managing the crowds in this area. Again, this happened within the last half an hour here in downtown Atlanta, so about 2:30. We'll be able to check that time as soon as we can track the first 911 call. But shooting in downtown Atlanta, 4 people have been shot and injured. There is some thought that perhaps one of the injured is also the suspect.
And when talking about this situation, and you really talked about it, the panic, the commotion, the streets blocked off, the logistics behind something like this. It seems to be a controlled situation right now, but when we say controlled, we mean as far as the shooter, perhaps, because he's one of the 4 or she's one of the 4 people injured. Controlled because the shots have stopped firing, but now it's really when it begins to control the area, to block off the streets. The investigation's going to happen. Again, you talked about our reporters, Andre Washington and Michael Dowdna. Michael Dowdna is actually going to be up in just a few minutes. We're going to stay on the air until we get him, until we get new information, because a situation like this, what happens is new information comes in minute by minute. And because it's in the middle of downtown, in the middle of the day, with hundreds of people possibly involved as far as the commotion and blocking off streets, we want to stay on the air and bring you the latest information. And we're also working for Channel 2 Action News at 4, 5, and 6 to gather more information then. But right now, we're on the air right here, breaking into programming, because we're covering a shooting that took place in the last half hour. 4 people shot at Peachtree Center. Very busy area. It's a food court. It's like a mall, 50 restaurants. You have all the buildings. Everything's connected to the point where you can see News Chopper 2 trying to get shots of the ground. And it's so challenging because the buildings there continue to block it. But right there in one of those intersections, you can see a police car. The hood is up for some reason, and the shot goes away. And this is what we've been dealing with since we went on the air a few minutes ago to try to give you some perspective. You know, if you have anyone who may be working down there or may have called you and said, look, they're okay, you want to check in with someone. This is near the Westin. There's a Hard Rock cafe there too, and you mentioned, Linda, the MARTA station's there too, and no interruptions to their operations, at least not yet.
Well, that's what they said initially, no effect on operations, but clearly this is not a normal day. However, this is the kind of moment that all of our first responders train for, practice for, plan for, in case they're needed. Again, if you're just joining us, 4 people have been shot and injured in downtown Atlanta at the Peachtree Center food court. And we put together a map to show you exactly what we're talking about if you're familiar with this area. The address of the building is 235 Peachtree Street Northwest, surrounded by restaurants and hotels. You can see the gleaming Westin building as News Chopper 2 was going around with that live picture, affecting businesses in the area to the extent that some are putting out the warning not to come to their area because of all the police presence. Georgia State University sent out an alert saying Atlanta police responding to an incident, heavy police presence, so avoid the area. They're promising additional updates. Again, MARTA saying it's not affecting their operations at this point. However, their tactical officers and their team working with Atlanta police to keep everybody safe. And the initial word we have from Atlanta police is that the building itself at Peachtree Center, the food court, went on lockdown. Now, that would be an immediate response. In some of these live pictures, we've been able to see people out on the corners, kind of looking on, trying to see the emergency vehicles. Obviously, the police on the ground are giving people more specific instructions of what to do, but the first response was to lock down the building while police investigate. Obviously, the 4 people who were shot need medical help right away. Then there's the question of safety for everyone else and when they can allow traffic again and give people the all clear.
Absolutely, because when you have a call that says multiple people shot at a busy area like Peachtree Center, it's all hands on deck at this point. Atlanta police tweeting out, the Atlanta Police Department can confirm officers are investigating multiple people shot at 235 Peachtree Street Northwest. Please avoid the area. You know, they're saying they posted a series of posts on X. The scene's still open and active. Officers are working to figure out the circumstances surrounding the incident, and they continue to monitor for updates. So what they're doing now is figuring out what happened, how it happened, who else was involved, did anyone get away? Because that's one of the things, Linda, you need to consider when you talk about a situation like this. As we look at live pictures, trying to get a glimpse of what's happening on the ground, you think, all right, so they have 4 people in custody. Okay, so one person at this point of the 4 may be the shooter. Sure. Were there other people? We talked about the MARTA station, and that's really close. So what does that do in a situation like this? As we take a look at this ground picture that's coming up right here for the first time, you're watching breaking news, a first look at the ground here, the investigation, getting the exact intersection here of where this is.
And this is on Portman Boulevard. If you're just joining us, this is our first chance to look at the police response on the scene. You can see several Atlanta police cars right there, also an EMS or fire truck, an officer standing in the middle of the street right there. To recap, 4 people have been shot and injured at the Peachtree Center food court in downtown Atlanta, and we can get a sense of more of the police response from this live picture for the first time. You're watching this live with us for the first time here on Channel 2. We're committed to bringing you this live coverage so that if you're in the area affected by this, have someone who works in that area, you know the very latest of what's happening.
We have a third crew there. Channel 2's Ashley Lincoln is on the ground to give us the first perspective here as we continue this breaking news. Ashley, you can hear us, we can hear you. You're right there by that scene. What do you know so far?
Yeah, George, we literally just walked up here about 10 minutes ago. What we know is that a lot of people are asking a lot of questions, trying to figure out what happened. We know the preliminary information that 4 people, they were shot inside of one of these buildings behind me. I can tell you around that time the shooting allegedly occurred, I started receiving DMs from some of our viewers who were in this area at the time of the shooting, stating that something happened inside of the hub and that police were out here responding to the scene. A lot of people in this area, they were on their way to work. Obviously, for obvious reasons, they can't make it to work because police, they have several blocks of downtown Atlanta blocked off as they investigate what happened. Now, what we do see from our point, we've seen two large groups of law enforcement huddled together speaking. We see the guys in the green and black vests, and then your standard uniformed police officers talking. We haven't seen too much movement in and out of the buildings in this area. But these two buildings that you see on your screen, they're mostly businesses in this area. We do know a lot of hotels are down here, but where this hub is at, if that shooting happened in the hub, it is mostly a commercial space with a lot of businesses and a food court down in that area. But we're waiting to get more information from police out here. They have not provided a newser or an update regarding any details as to what happened, but you can count on Channel 2 to stay out here to gather more information and to ask questions to figure out more specifics regarding this afternoon incident down here in the city.